Hi, everybody.
Greetings, all.
I was just about to jump in. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Website 101 podcast, Lunch Bytes. It is the YouTube live that we do on the first and third Tuesday of each month.
That's
We
right.
recently moved it to accommodate my schedule. Thank you all so much for being accommodating. I am Amanda Lutz. Hi. I think it says our name in the bottom of the stream.
It does, and I
Okay.
just noticed that if you mouse over it, or at least if I mouse over it, I can add a title underneath your name. So I can say Amanda Lutz, boss, Mike Mella, sub boss, whatever.
Well, just in case people can't see that, I'm Sean Smith, your co-host, who's
Sean-
been absent recently from
Yes.
a couple of things, but I'm happy to be back.
Yes. Yeah, but
Sean
I meant
Smith,
like
founder.
on, I know that we, founder. Oh, I like that. I know that you can see the names on Riverside, but just peeking out of the corner of my eye to the live stream, I think that the names show up on YouTube,
Oh, nice.
They
I'm going
do,
to
right?
watch one of the recordings and see later.
I think. You know what? You can go back and watch it and put in the chapters if you want.
I could, but I probably won't.
At least it's honest. That's fine.
So, today we have a bit of an impromptu topic. What do you do when a service you rely on goes down? The answer right now for me is wait, because I can't do anything because BitBucket is hard down. So this morning I started doing a Craft 4 upgrade to the latest 4 and plugins and stuff, and everything's all good. And then I go to push that update to staging, and I'm getting all kinds of permission denied errors and whatever going on in the terminal.
Hold on. I do want to take a step back because this
Okay.
is 101.
Yeah.
So oftentimes, dear viewer, who's maybe a little more novice than we are, oftentimes we come up with like clever tips and tricks to be able to make deployment a little bit easier. And that's when we get the stuff that we're working on our local machines to the server. And oftentimes when we work with clients, we'll have like a staging server so that the client can review whatever the work is that we've done. And then after they approve it, we need to push all of these changes to the production server. And it's a huge pain in the ass to try to remember what did I change and what update do I need to make and what did I already drag to this server and what needs to go to that server. So there are a lot of deployment services that are available. Some of them work, sometimes the server will work directly with a repo, and sometimes we'll use an in-between service. I still like using buddy.works that will like sort of see whenever there's an update to the repo and then push all of the changes to the server.
Right, yeah. So some hosts will have something baked in, like Laravel Forge does, Served, which is a craft only host. They also have stuff baked in, but different things will do that. In any case, this client site that I'm working on is run by an agency, and they have their own in-house server dude who has set up a script to run stuff, so I don't do anything with deployment. But I went to push it up to the staging branch, and I'm getting all kinds of errors, and I was like, what's going on? And Googling it, nothing's working. And I go and talk to the project manager, and she said, oh, what do we do? And I said, well, I don't know. I did a little bit of Googling, and I found an error message that said, oh, there's some permission problems with the branch on BitBucket. It's like, okay, it's got to be related to this. Can you ask the server guy to take a look at that? And she's all right. And then she came back to me and it's like, I tried to pull the changes to my computer because she does like little minor things. And I got this big message saying that BitBucket is down. You didn't see that? And I was like, nope. I think that message was visible in source tree, but not in the terminal, which is where I was getting a different message, just whatever. So the big thing here is BitBucket is hard down. We can't do anything. What can I do? Me personally, in this case, is nothing. But what we need to do, though, is prepare the client that, hey, look, one of these services has gone down, and you need to be prepared for a little bit more of a content freeze just in case we can't get it done today because we're dependent on BitBucket.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure we can if they don't understand that, you just bring up things like, well, you've heard of when Netflix goes down or YouTube goes down because of an issue. This is the same thing. They're a global issue. And so it's just educating your client and periodically checking the status. And when it's ready, then, I'm going to go and do it. I think maybe for bigger companies that have more important things, you might have a redundant option. So you might have in this case, your Git repository available in 2 different services, like GitHub and BitBucket, and then BitBucket's down. That's my primary one. Okay, I'll just push it to GitHub and use a different deployment or whatever. Like, there are ways you could do that if you really needed to, but I think for the average small-time guy, they're not going to be setting up something like that.
Yeah, I would. So, first of
That
all,
was just me thinking off the cuff.
yeah, no, for sure. First of all, I think that always comes back to a really important point: communication. Communication is always going to be one of the most important things. If you're having an issue, talk to the client. If you have a question, talk to the project manager. If you have whatever's going on, you should always be talking to somebody, keeping them up to date, keeping you up to date. It's always a back and forth.
100%. I'm all about transparency, and if you do a try to cover your butt and it's like, oh, I didn't do anything wrong, it will come back and bite you in the ass in the end. It's just so much better to be like, hey, I ran into this issue. It's going to take me a little bit longer. I'm looking for some support for troubleshooting or whatever it is. Communication is very important, just like Amanda said.
I would also add that this doesn't apply in your case, Sean, because you're working with the agency or whatever. But if it's your direct client, I have in many cases set up disaster recovery processes where there's a document that says, look, if things go totally south, here's what we're going to do. And it's things like, log on to the server, rename the index file, index old, and put a undergoing maintenance. We'll be right back on the file. So that's what people see when they go to the site, depending on what the issue is, of course. But there's all kinds of things like that. Download the database, find another place to host the database, whatever you have to do. And I've done that before, where I have a whole series of steps that we go through. And I have had to enact it before because of various, I think there was a ransomware attack one time. There was a server crash another time. So sometimes it happens, and it's very helpful to have that kind of stuff. In fact, and to your point about the communication, we spoke to Mitchell Kimbrough from SoulSpace one time on our podcast, Website 101 podcast, and he was recounting a story where he was working with a client and they totally broke the site, I think he said. And he was all about high touch. That's the term he used, high touch. Like, go to your client, tell them what you're doing, continue to say, look, this is the next step we're going to do. We'll be back to you in an hour, with any updates. And he said that when he did that, the client felt much more comfortable, even though they hadn't yet fixed it. They were, someone was on it. You know what I mean? So it's always good to do that rather than just, hey man, I don't know, it broke and it's this company, so hopefully it gets fixed.
Regular updates. What are you doing? What are the processes? If you can't, and propose options in case this is an irrecoverable issue.
Yeah.
Like your disaster plan. I like that disaster plan. I want to know more about that. Maybe we can do an episode talking about it. You could come up with like a pretend one for a pretend client. I don't want to use specific client information, but you know what I mean.
Yep. No, that's a good idea.
That's a great idea.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hope
any listeners have disaster plan options. Let us know.
Or disaster stories, even better.
Yes.
Just tell us things that happen. That'd be amazing.
My favorite disaster story is always when the fingers get pointed at me. It's like, oh, developer, what did you do? And it's like, I haven't touched this code in 48 hours, so it super was not me. Everybody inhale, exhale. I'll help figure it out, but...
Or 48 days sometimes. It's like,
sometimes,
you guys have not been working with me. Why would you? It has nothing to do with me. Yeah.
Because you're the guy we need to blame.
That's right.
You're the last guy. That
you understand all that techno babble. It's your fault.
it is sometimes nice to be able to sweep in and fix the
Witch.
problem, even
You're
though
a
it's not your
witch.
problem. Yeah, exactly. So, Sean, are you saying that this BitBucket thing is like all of BitBucket is like screwed right now? Is that what's going on?
Yes, yes. Let me share my screen. I'll show you the status.
Wow. You know, there's a lot of people working overtime over there right now. Holy
Oh
cow,
yeah,
look
No
at that.
kidding.
and
Oof.
this has
Yeah.
been like since 10:30 or so, maybe a little bit before that I ran into it. So I don't know when it started, but I know since at least an hour and 15 minutes ago our time. I'm gonna
Wow.
refresh, and yeah, it's still down. So
Man.
Wow. Well, yeah. I hope it works out for you very soon because
yeah,
clients don't know.
like these things happen. Like we said that AWS off screen we were talking. AWS has been down. Netflix has been down. You know that it's all hands on deck, and if you're, it's gonna be like a big deal. They're working hard on it, and they'll figure it out. It's just how quickly they can deploy the fix.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's and when I hear stories like this, it always makes me think about how precarious everything technical is. Like, I'm constantly telling my students, yes, computers are smart and wonderful and do everything for us, and where would we be without them? Computers are stupid and will
They
only do
only follow the
exactly what we tell
instructions you
them to
give them.
do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I tell the story about the guy who broke the internet. Have you two heard this story?
I think you told
We've
it to us before, maybe even
yeah.
in an episode.
Maybe even in an
But tell it
episode, yeah.
again.
Gather round. So it was back in like 2016, and it had everything to do with Node.js. So again,
Oh, I
for
remember this.
more novice developers, Node.js is they're like these modules that you can install and packages that you can include in your program. And when I teach at Seneca, we use one of them for just spinning up like a light server, just having like a really lightweight local development environment that files can easily be added to and then easily be deleted and gotten rid of. Like very, very high end, very simple. But there are a lot of big websites out there who are depending on a lot of heavy lifting modules from Node.js. And so back in 2016, when things were first, more so first starting, like almost 10 years ago now, there was this guy who made Node modules. I don't know if he was just practicing the technology, wanted to see what it was about, but he made a lot of modules, like dozens, hundreds of modules that just did the same functionality as a simple JavaScript function. So like one of them was like pad left, which would remove any white space from the left of a string. One of them was pad right, which would move any white space from the right of a string, and just little things like this. And he made so many of these modules. But other people building modules started using his as a dependency. So you had to use his had to be installed in order for their module to be installed. And then other people started using their modules as a dependency. So it became like this whole big chain of bigger and bigger and more hardworking, depending on these little teeny tiny modules that this dude had made for, I don't know what reason, because just vanilla JavaScript has the same functionality. JavaScript found out about it, the people who make JavaScript, and sent him a cease and desist, basically saying, you are copying our source code, stop it. And the guy super panicked, as anybody would in that case, and deleted all of his modules. This was back in the day before it was like before anyone had thought that this, something like this would be an issue, and so you could just delete the code and delete the modules. But then that
I would
means
have
that
done
all of
that.
the modules that were dependent on his failed, and all the modules that were dependent on that failed, and all of the bigger modules, and so it caused this cascading effect, and it brought down huge sites. Like I think Netflix went down, I think Amazon went down, I think like it affected these sites that nobody ever would have thought would have been dependent on some Joe Schmo nobody who had made these modules, and that so much was dependent on them. So that was how one guy broke the internet.
I think that NPM, the organization behind Node modules, has since made it so you unable to delete them. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
that is correct.
I
You can
remember
no
that being
longer-
like, we're going to fix it so that
Yeah.
if you have a packet, but I wonder if people can still like, what happens if they delete their
Oh.
GitHub account? Doesn't that just get rid of the code too?
I don't know. I'm sure that
I-
there's some backup. I'm sure that there's some.
Yeah.
But the thing that I love about it is I'm Googling right now npm left pad incident. That's the incident.
The
I just
left
wanna
pad incident.
Hold on. If I go to npmjs.com and if I search for
This reminds me,
Yeah.
just while you're doing that, this reminds me of that WordPress debacle recently where all these people relied on advanced custom fields for their themes or whatever, and then there's a dust up between them and the WordPress people. So, oh, what am I going to do? Am I going to side with them or side? You know, it's a tower of dependencies, and if something goes wrong
Yeah.
on one of them, you could be in a lot of trouble, I guess. I hope there's somebody vetting those things, those modules, so that he can't like suddenly inject or have some, you know, malicious code in there that's now being used by Netflix and Amazon and all the rest of it. You know, hopefully someone looks at them first and says, "Oh, this is fine. It's safe." You know what I mean?
No, I absolutely know what you mean. And I don't know is the answer. So I found it. Hold on, I want to share my screen for a second. And this is what kills me. I think this is the funniest part about it. So this is the npmjs.com. This is the left pad. This package has been deprecated. So hey, please don't use it. And instead, hey, just use the JavaScript. Use that. Published 7 years ago. Yeah, everything else. Blah blah blah. It still has over 1 million weekly downloads.
Jesus.
So wait,
1.2,
keep scrolling down there. Let me see. What's the usage and all that? Is it like how complex is this thing?
There's pull requests. Oh, those are
So
probably
left
old.
foo. Okay, so yeah, it's not making anything really simpler in any way. I don't
No.
think. Did that JavaScript? Oh, it did. It existed before this too.
I guess it adds spaces. Does it add spaces?
Oh, okay. So there's
Or
other
something?
options it can do. Yeah.
I guess. But yeah, but like, why would you require an entire module, even if
Yeah.
it's a small module, to like do something that JavaScript will do
I guess some people just
by
don't.
default?
You know,
But like,
I don't know.
this is what kills me.
Weekly downloads?
Yeah, that's insane.
Like,
Holy
yeah,
shit.
something happened in November that there was like over 3 million downloads.
3.5 million downloads.
Like,
Was he able to
That's just
monetize this at all, or no? That
I
would've
don't
been
know.
nice.
No, well, no contributor.
Is he the prick that broke the internet right there?
No. Anyway, I always think that this is I always think that's a funny story.
That is insane.
Wild. Man, we're all just
We're just all a semicolon away from being unemployed because all of the satellites are
Yeah.
falling down from Earth, and
right.
I can't be a farmer. I can't.
It's like the Y2K bug. It's going to ruin everything eventually.
Now,
Absolutely, yeah.
there's theoretically another one of those coming up in 2039 or something.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah, but I am as worried as I was for Y2K, which is to say I wasn't.
Well,
Despite all the hype, I was like, life is going to go on.
I think
Wait,
it's been
so-
established that it wasn't. It was basically just a not anything, right? Because there were countries
was-
that did nothing about it, and they didn't have any problems.
well, it wasn't. It's not like it was going to be the end of the world. But the fact of the matter was that a lot of date fields because at the time with databases, you had to like specify the number of characters, and so for all of these date fields, 8 characters. Because I'm going to have 2 for the year, dash, 2 for the month, dash, 2 for the year. So that's it,
Yeah.
8 characters. And so if you're doing a lot of calculations where you're trying to take like the 2 digits from this year minus the 2 digits from the date field, like, and you're doing a calculation. So you could be doing interest, you could be doing stuff like that. If all of a sudden you've got like a minus number of years, and it's like taking interest out of people's bank accounts, I think it was more stuff like that. Yes, it would have been caught, it would have been fixed, but if there was an airplane in the sky that was doing something based on dates for whatever reason, computers go wrong, programming goes
Yeah,
wrong.
I just remember, and maybe my memory is wrong, but the hype, the news hype, it was like the biggest story for forever, and they were all. It seemed like they were suggesting that planes were going to fall from the sky, the Earth was going to swallow up cities, and God was going to throw fireballs at everybody. Like that's how
Well,
big
yeah,
the hype
but
was.
like so, but how much
Massive eye
software
roll on my part.
how much software was controlling nuclear arms from being deployed?
All
If there
right,
is
maybe I
some
hadn't
math
considered
problem,
that, but
like
Well,
still don't.
Israel, the nation of Israel, famously did nothing about it, and they are a nuclear power, and they didn't have any issues. Italy is another one I think that said we don't care about this problem, and
I think it was just more that it was the big question mark. It's like
yeah,
what could
Right.
happen?
I was in a programming course in 1999, and I remember us studying it thoroughly. There was like avenues you could go into after the course as far as employment to help people deal with the
Oh yeah.
Y2K bug. Yeah, so it was a big
Well,
thing.
and
There
that
was a
was
podcast I listened to recently, by the way. I don't even remember what it is. Maybe I can dig it up, but just recently they covered this whole story, and they had two different sort of experts, one of them saying we really dodged a bullet because we fixed it, and then the other one saying it was a big hoax, that was a cash grab by the IT industry. And it was really interesting to see both perspectives. I mean, wherever you
I
sit on the fence there.
I don't think it was a hoax. I think that it was blown out of proportion. I think that, and at the time, a lot of the code that was sitting on the servers themselves was like written in COBOL.
Yeah.
So, because it wasn't even like the operating system, right? It was like just the code that was running the server themselves. And there were a lot of like old developers who were the only people who had any COBOL knowledge and experience,
My
who
dad was one
made
of them.
a killing.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. My dad was a COBOL programmer, and I remember he did a lot of work at that time for people who were like, what the fuck is COBOL? We
There
don't
you
know it.
go.
You know
Look
it?
at
You
Mike
brought it.
admitting to his generational wealth. God.
Hey, that's right. You know what else I learned recently about along these lines is I always wondered why on an alarm clock, here's me dating myself again, alarm clock
9 minutes.
radio,
I heard the same thing.
it's 9 minutes when you hit snooze. Old
I was
clocks,
wondering that this morning. Tell me.
it's
I don't know.
it's because nine is one digit, and it was way too much work to put into the hardware of the device.
To have the
Oh, that's
rollover?
2 digits of a 10 minute. It's like, forget that. Just do 9 minutes. So that's why it's nine. Isn't that
Yeah,
wild?
I heard the same podcast last week, I think it was.
Yeah.
Anyways, recently for sure.
Pretty interesting. I always wondered that. Like, why aren't you rounding this up to 10 minutes, making me sleep 9 minutes? You shouldn't use snooze anymore anyway. Everybody knows that. It doesn't help your sleep patterns at all.
I did a bunch of times today and it felt good.
I
Oh,
cannot
yeah?
remember the last time I needed an alarm clock. I just naturally wake
God.
up between 5 and 6.
Ugh.
Are you refreshed?
No.
Okay.
I am sometimes, but I mean,
Between
wake up-
5 and 6.
and I will often wake up at like before 5 and I just won't, there will be no sleep for me.
Like
Andrew's the
insomnia
same.
type stuff you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's basically two kinds of insomnia. There's the insomnia where you cannot fall asleep. That is not my problem. There's
Yeah.
the insomnia where you wake up in the middle of the night to use the washroom or whatever, or like your mind wanders for a bit and you cannot go back to sleep. That's me. Some people like they wake up and they're awake for 30 minutes or an hour and they go back to sleep. It's annoying, but it happens, right? I wake up, I may as well turn on all the lights and start working that day because it's 4:30. I'm awake. I'm not sleeping again until like 3 in the afternoon when I crash.
Yeah. You could nap later on the day. That's the way to
But
deal with it, I
it's
guess.
it's not great. But that happens to me at least once every couple of weeks. And
Are you on
sometimes
the-
it'll happen like for 4 or 5 days in a row.
Are you drinking coffee?
I am drinking coffee again, unfortunately, and I know that it's related, but my coffee consumption is really low. It's like a half a cup. And I'm trying to get back to zero, but I haven't found a period of days where I can deal with the caffeine headaches and just
Yeah.
like let them wash over me and be completely unproductive for 4 days in a row. That's
Well,
what
I
I
will
need.
say, I drink decaf, as you know. Sorry, this is not tech related, but anyway, I drink decaf sometimes, all the time. But when I do have a proper coffee, like if I'm out and I'm at a good coffee shop and I go, what you described is the same problem I have. I have no problem going to sleep at night on that day, but I will wake up 5 hours into and then I'm just like, can't get back to sleep. That's what coffee
Yeah,
tends to
and
do to
I
me.
know that I had previously stopped drinking coffee for like 9 months, 10 months or something. And then I went to Paris on vacation. And well, I'm in Paris and I'm on vacation and I've got jet lag and I had coffee and they have good coffee. And then I just haven't been able to get off of it since. But even when I had quit coffee, I still periodically had that. It wasn't as often. So it's a me issue, but it's exacerbated by caffeine.
Maybe we could roll this into an episode somehow. Things that affect one's workflow, whether it's music or coffee, or people have different types of music they listen to that they can work to and not work to.
Oh,
Talking in the
absolutely.
office,
I
stuff like
I
that.
am related to that. I work in silence. If there's music on, doesn't matter whether it's classical or it's got lyrics like pop music. I cannot concentrate. I work in
Amanda,
silence.
do you listen to music when you code?
I used to like all the time exclusively, and then I think when Andrew started working from home more, I tried to not to try to be like respectful of the space and not annoy him. But he still hears me swearing all the time when I'm working. So yeah, sometimes I'll put the music back on and I started reading a book last night, and apparently it's a new thing that books are doing. They'll have a QR code like in the first few pages, pointing to a playlist that they set up. So
Oh,
I'm enjoying the
I
book so
want
far, so I thought I'd check that out.
that is
interesting.
interesting. But the science is behind not having music when you need to concentrate. It is you are no human being is able to multitask despite what they say. You can do
I
one
have
thing
heard
or
that,
the
yeah.
other.
There is also science behind the idea of listening to what I listen to, which is lo-fi music that's instrumental and has no lyrics. It's just like a steady beat with it's all over
Okay,
Spotify. You can type
I'm
lo-fi.
not aware of that science, but I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, it apparently puts your brain into a focused state or whatever, something, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, whatever.
Cool.
People
Oh,
should listen to whatever they want to or
I would
nothing.
like to
I
learn
don't
more.
care.
We should do this episode
Yeah,
after we
it'd be
do the
cool.
episode about having an emergency recovery file.
And viewer, if you have any tips about what music you listen to, like I've heard people, I think Andrew Welsh, who does plugins for Craft CMS, listens to like speed metal and stuff like that when he codes. I think he said that one time, like really loud metal music, or somebody
Oh,
did
I
anyway. So can't
I
imagine doing
used
that.
that was the type of music I would listen to, like the grunge, punk, emo.
But while
Good.
you wrote code, while you worked,
While I was
really,
working. Well, because it's just it would just be here's myself dating a bit. It was just on the radio, and I would just have it on in the background, and then it would just
yeah.
be. And then when I lived by myself in my one bedroom condo, I would have it on in the other room, so like, and it wasn't very loud and it wasn't intrusive. But every once in a while, I'd be like reading an email or typing something, and I'd notice I'd be like singing along with the songs, and again, because it's a radio station and they replay the songs over and over again, day after day after day. So it's like those lyrics just kind of wove into my subconscious.
Yeah,
Nice.
when I was first coding, I had radio playing all the time, and then I started stopping it to like focus on an issue, and I was like, oh wait, this is way easier. And then it
Yeah.
just got to the point where I cannot code if there's background noise, and which is makes me happy that I'm self-employed because I don't have to deal with the noise of an office.
Yeah.
I did work in an open office at an agency, and I would often have my headphones on with noise canceling and nothing playing just so I could ignore my coworkers.
Yeah.
Nice. Did you have that post-it note on your back that says "Leave me alone, I'm working" or something like that, so people couldn't even come up
No,
to you?
but I had repeatedly tried telling people, look, if you see the headphones on, I don't want to talk to you. It
Yeah.
didn't make a difference. But the post-it thing,
Yeah.
I like that idea. I wish I knew about that at that time.
Yeah. Okay. Should we wrap it up? It's 12.
I think we should.
I think it's a good call. Yeah.
I think so.
All right. Well, that was good. So everybody stay tuned for the next episode of the podcast. I don't know what it's going to be. It's when it's
I
going to
don't know
happen,
either.
but it'll be soon.
See you. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.